Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Central. It's 2 hours of discussing some of Nigeria's biggest stories. Welcome to the show. I am Olive Emodi.
And I am Asao Bon. Welcome once again to Breakfast Central. We encourage you to be a part of the conversation. As always, join us via our social media platform at News Central TV and share your thoughts with us on these major conversations that we will be having this morning. As of today, there are petrol queues building in parts of Lagos and I believe in other parts of Nigeria as well, because of course of the recent news updates that the NNPC has, declared a new price of petrol just slightly above 1,000 naira. In part of Nigeria, of course, people have said that the petrol has been selling for way more than 1,000 naira for the last long while, a couple of weeks, maybe a few months, 1,300, maybe 1,400 in some places. I did get to buy petrol yesterday afternoon for about 1,200. I'm not sure exactly, but I know.
1,060. Was it the same filling station?
No. I bought 20,000 naira petrol. I only got 16 liters of petrol. So, definitely more than 1,060, like you mentioned. So, but the point is, this is the new reality. And, it once again is another moment where Nigerians will adjust, and I've spoken about this countless times. On the Guardian newspapers this morning, we might show you this later, but on the Guardian newspapers this morning, the main headline there says, World Mental Health Day, frustration, hardship, sink more Nigerians into depression. Now, I would, argue that we don't have a proper mental assessment of the Nigerian, or the average Nigerian. Very, very many people, I believe, are going through some mental health crisis or the other. And I don't think we have a proper, assessment of our national, or get proper statistics, basically, of what the mental health situation is like in Nigeria, mostly because, of poor, education, that's really what it is. But with the recent economic realities that are, have hit Nigerians, I would beg that we do, and I think everyone should find some way to have a mental health assessment, know exactly where you are.
Because it is. Where are they going to see? So this mental health assessment they're talking about is important, but it's not feasible for the majority of Nigerians. The people that can afford mental health assessments are people that are quote-unquote middle class, and right now are probably getting eroded. The majority, the bulk of the people are thinking of how to buy fuel, are thinking of how to feed. And whilst this is a very important aspect, it's not something that people will consider priority now.
Yeah, so if you are referring to going to the hospital and, getting to see book a consultation with a doctor, yeah, that might be too much.
So what other options are they going to get?
I don't know. But the point is, the key point that I'm trying to make this morning is the Guardian newspapers and that headline, I think, is very, very correct. That there's many, many more Nigerians sinking into depression as it stands this morning with the current economic realities that, we've simply tried to adjust to with, and that's the regular Nigerian attitude to everything. We make adjustments. What we do as a people is complain for a couple of hours and then figure out ways to make adjustments. And then we try to make more money to coat ourselves around the chaos that is our current economic reality. And it's annoying because the stories behind the Dangote Refinery and the initial chaos, the promises that were made by people that were supposedly speaking for the government of Dangote was that once it gets to the month of October and the crude sale in naira begins, that the petrol price will drop. And that's, some people expected that to be true. But unfortunately, what we're seeing is that after the 9th of October, petrol is still increasing. And it doesn't even seem like it's going to change anytime soon. I expect that in the next couple of weeks, maybe months, we'll get to 1,300, 1,500.
People are already making projections that it will get to 2,000.
Because just like we in our conversation with Kalu Aja, if you remember a couple of days ago, he said that as long as we continue to buy petrol, crude rather, which is priced in dollars, there's nothing that the Dangote Refinery will do for us to reduce the cost of petrol. The whole idea of, we're no longer importing it, all the freight charges and all of that, all those things have completely been wiped away. So Nigerians now will have to deal with this new reality that petrol price is going to be about 1,000, more than 1,000, maybe 2,000 naira at some point. And that's the reality. And it's even worse that every single time that we get here, it starts with petrol scarcity.
So, I mean, I hear all you say regarding mental health. I think that that's very clear, the Nigerians' mental health. Our mental health is under siege. Our mental health is thoroughly challenged. We've not had a break in the past 2 years. It's been back to back. I think I tweeted about it yesterday. I went to buy fuel as well. And I mean, I called you in the middle of the chaos. And I don't know what was more depressing. The fact that I was buying fuel at this ridiculous price. And I mean, I count myself lucky because I bought it for 1,060. Or the fact that there were people who were there that at this point had to adjust how much they were spending. People who couldn't afford to fill their tanks, they'll buy 10,000 naira, which would get them barely, say, 10 liters or a little above, 10, 11 liters. People who couldn't buy more than, I would see people come and say, oh, just put 10,000 inside, put 14,000. And that tells you how bad things are. It's not that they have enough fuel. It's not like, oh, they had enough and just wanted to top up. They cannot afford. And the conversations, you could hear the conversations from the bike men to those who came to buy with jerry cans, to those who were on the queue to fill their cars. I think there was one common united agreement is we were united in our poverty and our suffering at the filling station. And you can see that it's palpable. Everyone is talking about how, oh, the government does this, the government does that, oh, it's terrible. And then someone there is saying, when we prepare on ourselves, oh, it's going to get to 2,000, and everybody is shouting. So it was, for the first time in a while, I saw a unity, but it was a unity born out of suffering. And it's just really sad because what's even more depressing is we don't even know what to do to get out of this fix. And we don't even know if there's really a light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. So I think that's what's more depressing because you tell them, oh, go out and protest. People can't protest. Or some people will say, oh, if we go out and protest, they will silence us. If we come out and complain, you know, it's to what end? Yeah. And then we'll be seeing people who are fighting on social media about egusi soup and the best soup in Nigeria. The things that really don't matter are the things that we're prioritizing, you know. And again, as we typically are in Nigeria, we will just keep adjusting, you know, we'll just keep making room until there's nothing left. I think
the soup arguments, you know, are really just signs of people who have been completely defeated. Those things will exist, you know, and I would always argue that two different things, you can have the mental space to handle two different things. You can watch reality TV shows and at the same time demand accountability from your government.
No, I completely disagree.
You can argue over soup and at the same time demand accountability.
When I talk about those who are arguing about soup, did you realize how very dire those arguments got? How very... They were threatening people's lives because of soup.
Listen,
so it just felt like...
I agree.
People are angry, yes, but they're channeling the anger to the wrong people and they're channeling their anger the wrong way.
I agree.
It's your government that owes you that.
My argument is you can do that and at the same time hold your government to account. The problem is that we're not doing both. So I'm not knocking people for having their silly arguments online. My problem is, while you have those silly arguments online, remember that when it's time to hold government to account, you should be able to put in that same energy. That's my point.
Well,
and if you don't do that, that's when there's a problem, which we currently obviously have. Somebody lied. Somebody sold a false narrative and false hope to Nigerians about the Dangote Refinery, about the crude in naira sales, about the direction that we're going with the whole NNPC Dangote arrangement. Somebody lied.
Well, as for me, at the end of the day, I would say that those who are online fighting each other because of soup and threatening people's lives should be ashamed of themselves. We have bigger problems to deal with in Nigeria. And I'm hoping that the government actually sees, I don't know, they sees whether they care, but that's another conversation for another day. But Nigerians are suffering and there's no way to sugarcoat it. Let's bring to you the breakfast headlines this morning and then our top stories, and then we'll share with you what's happening, you know, this morning on the show. NNPCL raises fuel price to 1,030 naira per litre in Lagos, Abuja. Different parts, we're starting to see different numbers. Supreme Court set to hear 16-state suit against EFCC on the 22nd of October. INEC denies blocking beavers inspection and materials in Edo State. This is an ongoing conversation. And we also have Plateau governor assure citizens of credible local government elections. Whether the citizens believe is another kettle of fish. Your newspaper front pages will be reviewed. We'll have the phone lines open so you can call in and share your thoughts. Now let's bring you breakfast headlines.
Now let's begin breakfast headlines by telling you that petrol prices have again risen at Nigerian, of course, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Corporation Limited, NNPC filling stations. In the federal capital, Abuja, the price has increased from 897 naira to 1,030 naira per litre, while in Lagos it has gone from 885 naira to 998 naira per litre. The price increase follows reports that the NNPC has pulled out of a deal to buy fuel from the Dangote Refinery. At the time of filing this report, the NNPC spokesperson was unavailable to confirm the price increase. This is the second price hike in 2 months. Long queues have already formed at NNPC stations in Abuja and Lagos as motorists wait angrily to buy petrol.
So we don't just know what to say about the fuel issue. We are just tired. Not until this morning we heard that the fuel is up to 1,000 something again by NNPC. So we don't know what to do. We are just praying to God for God to just intervene because we all are tired. From my house to this place before, I'm always using 500 naira, but now it has increased to 1,500. From my house to Bagada, from Moebafo to Bagada is 1,500.
From 5 something, before I don't go 990, it's not done. Make an airport this Nigeria, make not kill everybody. To eat inside room is a problem. I beg an airport this Nigeria, it's not done. This is our country. Everything I don't buy for 11,000. By next week now, all markets go carry money go up. It's not done. Making the airports in this Nigeria.
What I think they want to do is they actually want to arrive at a price known to them. So I will suggest to them to just quickly jump to that price instead of making us go through stress like this. She understand. I don't want to say this out. I know I do tell my colleagues and friends that okay, what I think government are doing is they're actually measuring the dollar with our naira. Okay, let me just say it. To me, I'm thinking they are going to $1 per litre. That's their plan. You know, they don't deal on naira anymore. They deal on dollars. And when you look at what dollars is talking about now, probably 1.5 to 1.6 or something. So what they are trying to do is to bring this fuel to 1.5.
And now to judicial matters, the Supreme Court has fixed October 22nd for the hearing of a suit filed by at least 16 state governments challenging the constitutionality of the laws establishing the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and 2 others. A 7-member panel of justices led by Justice Uwani Abaji fixed the date after the states were joined as co-plaintiffs and leave granted for consolidation of the case in the suit, originally filed by the Kogi State government through its Attorney General. The states adjoined in the suit include Ondo, Edo, Oyo, Ogun, Nasarawa, Kebbi, Katsina, Sokoto, Jigawa, Enugu, Benue, Anambra, Plateau, Cross River, and Niger. The 16 states said they are relying on the fact that the Constitution is the supreme law and that any law is inconsistent with it is a nullity. The Nigerian Senate has mandated immediate compliance with the Supreme Court's ruling on local government funding. The resolution was reached at the floor of the Senate on Wednesday after a debate on a motion by lawmaker representing Anambra North, Tony Nwoye. In his lead debate, Senator Nwoye raised concerns about governors trying to enact laws to control local government funds illegally. The president of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, assured that the National Assembly will take immediate steps to alter sections of the Constitution to give full autonomy to local government administration in the country.
Few state governments, through their respective state House of Assembly, through their different state House of Assembly, seek to enact laws, while some have already enacted laws and continue to take action.
And away from Nigeria, Mozambique independent presidential candidate Venancio Mondlane was backed, or rather has backed, claims that a perfect system was set up to cause fraud during Wednesday's presidential, parliamentary, and provincial elections. According to Mondlane, who was speaking to reporters after voting at a polling station in Maputo City, in some regions, the voter rolls have been tampered with and the position of Podemos on the ballot papers was changed. The last presidential election in 2019, in which the ruling party, Frelimo, won with 73% of the votes, was marred by irregularities.
Nós votarmos em massa mesmo que eles façam todos os truques que estão aqui a fazer, mesmo que eles façam todo este esquema fraudulento, babilônico, de desvirtuar a vontade do povo, se nós votarmos em massa, nós temos possibilidades para que a vontade popular não seja dúvida. Vou-te dizer uma coisa, por aquilo que nós acompanhamos até este momento, há condições mais do que suficientes para também...
Now, people in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, have reacted as a bid by lawmakers to oust Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua reached the Senate after he was impeached by the lower house of parliament the previous day. The vote has added to political uncertainty in the East African powerhouse, which was rocked earlier this year by sometimes deadly anti-government protests amid a cost of living crisis. The impeachment motion.
Accreditation, voting, and counting of ballot papers have ended across the 17 local council areas of Plateau State. The exercise, which began as early as 8 a.m. on Wednesday in many polling units, came to an end at about 6 p.m. However, many said the election was marred with voter apathy and non-efficiency of the voter verification system developed by the electoral umpire in the state. News Central's Chizoba Anyonwe monitored the election and now tells us more. The October 9 local government election in Plateau State has come and gone. What people are now waiting for is the result of the polls. The grassroots election was held 3 years ago with divergent views and outcomes. With the peace on the plateau being fragile, the exercise was commended by the electorate who spoke with News Central crew.
They said that they had some issues from the local government, but we waited and thank God, so far they came, and as you can see, people are around. They've been voting for the past 1 hour or more. And I've already casted my vote too.
As you can see, there is no misunderstanding or any form of disagreement between political parties and their agents. So that shows that the process is fair and free.
I didn't know it would be this peaceful, although I think the people are still trickling in, but it's very peaceful. In fact, it didn't take me very long to cast my vote.
Major stakeholders who participated in the just concluded election had this to say.
When we raised those observations with respect to the VVS, we were told that whether online or offline, they were going to work. So the report so far we've gotten from the 17 local governments, right, shows that less than 0.5% of VVS, the app also, is working.
Actually, we have about 24,000 registered voters, but we were given 11,650 ballot papers. But that's not to worry. From experience, we know that somehow this is going to go round. But just in case there's any shortfall in any polling unit, they can always reach us. And that's why we're even going around to monitor and make sure that everything is going all right.
Elections is a process. Logistics has a lot of intricacies with them. But certainly they would have to improve on logistics to ensure that polling units open on time. I've also heard about shortages of staff and the like. All of these they need to improve. I am pretty sure with the professionalism, or I would call it the openness of the commission to want to do better elections, they would look at these elections and learn from it and be able to conduct maybe much better elections in the next cycle.
The electoral umpire has just tasted the waters, as this is his first outing since assuming office as chairman of the State Independent Electoral Commission.
I've not heard anything. We've not seen the report or the general report of all the polling units, but so far so good. The only issues we've heard are late arrival of materials, and it's, from my own opinion, is from maybe the new polling units that were created, and and the supervisors could not locate the actual polling locations of those polling units, so it became a problem. We are hopeful that in the next election, after our post-election review, we will look at those things along with even the media. You can come and assist us and to see how we can improve the commission.
Plateau State Governor Caleb Mutfwang assures the electorate that their votes will count.
What we have assured people about this election is that their votes will count. And I'm glad I have just voted. The process is going on seamlessly, as you can see yourselves. And I'm sure that at the end of the day, God willing, that the process is quite fast. In fact, faster than the beavers machine that we use in general elections. I believe that accreditation is at the heart of any transparent election. Once accreditation is done seamlessly and people cast their votes, they know that those votes will count. I'm sure that our electoral process will continue to evolve with integrity.
As peaceful as this election has been, it is expected and hoped that members of the public continue to go about their lawful businesses, maintaining peace even after the results are announced. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anyoe.
Well, thanks for that report. And of course, thanks to Chizoba for that one. Now let's move to other conversations. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC Limited, has again increased the pump price of petrol. In Abuja, the price has jumped from 897 naira to 1,030 naira per litre, while in Lagos, it's now 998 naira, up from 885 naira per litre. This marks the second price hike between September and October.
The price increase follows unconfirmed reports of NNPC's withdrawal as an intermediary in the Dangote Refinery purchase deal. The increase in fuel price has been progressive following the phasing out of fuel subsidy, with the government still unable to control the issue of petrol supply to marketers and filling stations. Joining us is International Energy Advisor, Strategy and Policy and Director, Desitin Energy, Desmond Agboifo. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Everyone, good morning. Thank you for having me this morning. Thank you.
All right. Can we say that we can authoritatively confirm NNPC's withdrawal as the withdrawal from being the intermediary between Dangote, the Dangote Refinery purchase deal? Because if you check on their page, so far, I don't think that we've seen any statement to either confirm or deny that.
Well, thank you very much. To be very honest, there's no particular statement, but I think what we have as the closest report coming from the NNPC, I mean, that was published sometime, I think last month, that that the deal which is going to trigger the NNPC's uptake on the PMS will kick off 1st of October, and very, very clearly, I think it was communicated by the communications officer, having to state very clearly that the NNPC's estimated pump price will be just around 950, and of course there's a breakdown on that number. I think it was quite clear. Prices will range anything from 960 to 1,019 naira. But what is key in that report that was released by the NNPC was stating its base pricing model coming from the Dangote Refinery's PMS gantry pricing at 898 naira, prior to the pricing of the authorities and inspection fees to come to 950. So there has not been any particular statement from NNPC, but that's the best we see at the time. And of course, just recently we saw the price hike just to about 30 or 40% more than what it used to be in the conventional market space.
Yeah, all right. Let's quickly just talk about the, well, let's say false narrative that was sold about the naira for crude agreement that was meant to start in the month of October. And the narrative that once that kicks off, there's a possibility that the price of petrol will reduce. So the general picture now is that the emergence and the start of the Dangote Refinery, the naira for crude agreement, none of that has affected the price of petrol in a way that favors Nigerians. So quickly share your thoughts on that one, and was this all a lie?
To be To be very candid, I don't expect the price to be to come as low as the market just demand, because already if you go down to the fundamentals of why the price is already what it is, we see that there's already pushback in terms of the issues around the Dangote Refinery and the pricing of its PMS. And as you would expect, with the volume of our demand daily in Nigeria compared to pricing of these products, the pricing model will definitely not go slow as we'll expect it to be. In fact, there are different school of thought that has made it very clear that, well, the price will stay anything between 800 naira if we have our FX fluctuations a bit stable. But what drives this product is really access to this FX in terms of trying to assess the crude and then refine. There's a bottom-up calculation that every company should see. I mean, the policy made it very clear that prices should be published in the just on the website and for people to understand what prices is applicable. But what we see in recent report again, it's anything between 890. It's feasible because the Platts price of refined products on 13th of September, Platts is standard of reporting, came about 840 naira. So to your question, I don't see that coming down. Number one, and number two, the confirmation that, well, because we have Dangote now, the price will go down. That's not a way to assess the situation clearly. But if I put them advice very clearly, all of this will be solved by our fundamentals. We would need to go back to the drawing board and get our refineries working, and then we will now be able to ensure that this issue around trying to get crude for the naira in 1st of October will be issue that should be borne by the national companies, so that we can be able to ensure that we have the supply readily available within our 445,000 barrels per day refinery capacity in the country.
Getting our refineries working, what impact will it really make? We've been hearing and speaking about getting the refineries up and working for how many years now, and we're still not, doesn't seem like we're anywhere close to having, all that working. And there are those who would say that our refineries might not be able to in any way impact lower prices, because that's what Nigerians want. They don't want to hear all these stories and all this rhetoric. They just want to see the practicality of lower prices, because the higher the prices, the higher the cost of living. So what really is the importance, first, of the refineries working, and then the practicality of it, seeing as Port Harcourt, case in point, has missed its 7th deadline?
Great, thank you. I'll start with the impacts. On a very high level, using an error of correction mechanism approach, there was a study that is published, I think one of these international organizations made it very clear that an increase in PMS in Nigeria will have a negative impact in the Nigerian economy. In fact, it will impact our GDP. Just to put it very nicely, 1% increment in PMS price, just a mere 1%, would lag our GDP by 0.7% in real terms. So this is on a general scale. However, looking at the issues in specific within the Nigerian economy, every PMS price, because everything seems to flow with the price of commodities and price of purchase of these products. We'll see an impact in the economy, increase in foodstuffs, increase in transportation, even increase in even access to very basic amenities. And what is essential is to be able to get this sorted out, we will need to get our fundamentals right. And the Nigerian NNPC needs to come to terms with the reality and ensure that we have products available. And I think two things must be mentioned here very clearly, which is the price availability and product stability. The product stability might help us to ensure that we have products available for refining. To your second question around NNPC having its own impact on the overall Dangote's refining capacity in terms of the supply. Well, those were very long conversations that came out in public. In fact, Dangote came out and said, well, the NNPC now has about 7%, as opposed to the planned 20% in exchange of about 300,000 barrels of oil deal. I would have expected that to be fantastic opportunity for us to be able to get into this business much, because again, to your point around our capacity of 445,000 barrels refinery as a national capacity, which is really less than what Dangote is producing. The reports from, I think, from KPMG and Ernst & Young that says we are probably, as of then, we're doing about less than 15% capacity utilization. So the point is really our refineries are not able to deliver what you need in terms of these products refining. And then, unfortunately, we need to, look for a way out to get products, out of the country and then bring it back in on the cost. So, popularly, before we go to this to where we are, it's always good to go back to what has been the issue. At the era of the 650 naira and so on, we're having naira fluctuate around 350 to about 400. Now it's probably 3 times the value. So the key elephant in the room is really the cost of importation of refined fuel in the country. And that is impacting a lot of businesses and also impacting supply reliability of this product.
Yeah, but I think another thing, to quickly mention is the value of the naira, of course, how it exchanges to the dollar. That's another very key deciding factor. And if the naira continues to lose value, would expect that the pump price of petrol will continue to increase. Is that factual?
Absolutely. You see, again, back to the fundamentals. When the naira is devalued in the markets, what it means is that the access to purchasing the import products will have a knock-on effect on the Nigerian people trying to access the same product that was produced in the country, but refined out and come back to the country. So that issue alone hovers around 30% of the price. There are certain concepts that I've worked on, and clearly the cost of bringing this product back to the country hovers around 30% of the actual price we get as the final price. So imagine if you knock off the 30% out of the price today. I mean, you see an impact in the economy. You see activities picking up as it should. I mean, we don't expect it to go as low as the days of 300 naira or 200 naira, but we'll probably see at least a much more tempered down tension in the economy.
All right. Let's also bring in Dangote element to this. I've seen reactions on social media, and people seem to, in a way, be making Dangote to be the bad person or the villain in this whole story. What's the role of Dangote in all of this?
Okay, well, thank you. I would consider Mr. Dangote as a hero in this situation. You see, as much as we were able to push our capacity into the markets, he has taken a bold step to drive this huge project, 650,000 barrels of oil per the capacity. And as much as it has been a big investment, the goal was to be able to access crude from the Nigerian market, refine and serve the market in Nigeria. You see, the numbers speak for themselves. If you look at the capacity of Nigeria, it's 445. Dangote is 650. If you look at the products that he's refining, it's well suited for the market. The key issue he has in here is the access to the crude that Nigeria would need to refine and keep the price down. I don't expect the price to go as low as what it should be. To be honest, this funding from Dangote is actually a business. I mean, it's a business fund, and of course, putting the $19 billion capital cost in a refinery, I would expect some level of time to recover investment costs and things like that. But that was the time, that the Nigerian economy should be able to assist and support with the product availability. It's a good effort. There are even concerns from the NLC that the price will come down, yes. And I've seen recently that the aviation industry are looking to purchase their products from him directly, at least to be able to get what is often termed as product stability in their supply. Those are the green areas that we can give to the whole Dangote deal. But with respect to the supply of the products and pricing, I think I would advise that the parties and stakeholders should come to the table and get a working deal for product stability and supply, so that we can be able to ensure that we have a guaranteed supply. for the Nigerian people.
And is there a possibility that we're going to have guaranteed supply anytime soon? The next few months, do you have an idea what the next few months might look like, especially because the routine in Nigeria, as we've seen in the past few years, is that towards the end of the year, during the festivities, we start to see that there's product, there's a lack of supply of product. We start to see an increase in the fuel queues. With what we're currently seeing, this has been the norm all through the year. So are there concerns? Should we be concerned about what the end of the year will look like in Nigeria?
Well, absolutely. I mean, of course, we must always take a step back to understand what has happened in the past few years in terms of supply as we get to the total end of the last few months of the year. But just recently, I think it was 2 days ago, it was in the news that there was a 400,000 barrels supply that is now a discussion topic for the Dangote Refinery. A few months ago, it was a million barrels or so into his refinery. And we should expect, a much more regular supply from the Nigerian economy into Dangote Refinery. Positively, this is speaking positively. If that happens, then we'll be assured that, first of all, I mean, there are two issues to solve here. The first most crucial issue, which is the priority, is the product has to be available. Then, before we now come to terms to making the price to be stable. These two issues are, I mean, the first is to ensure that it's available at a price that, fortunately, it's an issue that we'll have to experience on very, very short-term pains to enjoy a long-term gain. So yes, we will expect product to be available, but the question is, what is the frequency of the supply? 400,000 barrels, it's just more than just about maybe just above 50% of what he needs for his refining capacity. And I'm sure that there was a minimum capacity requirement that he needs to run his refineries. Other than that, on the flip side of that, he will purchase the products, at an expensive rate. For example, discussion around Dangote looking to assess his crude from the WTI in the US, that will come at a premium. And where we know that Nigerian crude is sweet, less sulfur, I mean, we would expect these things to be easier accessible in country for all the gains it's worth, exactly, because certain products out of the country will definitely, push them in knock-on price on the final price in the market.
Yeah. I mean, final question from me. I think everyone, really has just accepted that this is, going to be the new reality. Nothing is likely to change. The conversation about Nigeria's refineries are, tiring at this point. I think everyone should just let go of that. It's very likely to never come back to be fully functional. There are government promises, just like Ajaokuta Steel, that they make every administration. So let's forget about it.
Yeah.
But my question is, what would you have done differently if you came into office with this government as, someone in the petroleum sector? What would you have done differently in 2023, or maybe even earlier, that maybe would have mitigated against what our current realities are?
Great. Well, what I would have done differently, hopefully if I get to the system, it's first of all is to go down to the fundamentals. We've heard stories around that we've been trying to do what's called TAM, turnaround maintenance of the refineries by Technimot and the likes of them. The first assignment is to ensure that we have a working refinery. There is no point Nigeria, I mean, everywhere in the world, I should also say this, there's a recent video from Dangote saying that there are only 2 countries in Africa that don't depend on imported products. That's a huge gap that needs to be addressed. Nigeria is probably one of the biggest oil businesses in Africa. So one of the first work to do is to ensure that we get our assets in a capacity to at least refine what the Nigerian market needs. That's the first point of call. When we can do that, I mean, that would also involve us working with the private sector, working with the likes of Dangote, and even, having us fix our own Moribund refinery for a while. That's a key issue. If that is done, then we might have to, go back to the drawing board and ensure that we have new projects coming up. There's some point for there are lots of marginal refineries around the country right now trying to pick up. But the issues around these refineries, and even one in Edo State, it's product availability. So again, there must be that synergy of those refineries where it's the small scale or the refineries that just take up very little products. We ensure that there's a synergy within the government to ensure that these refineries has capacity to refine products should be available for them. And then long term, I'd say we should get the country to build a working refinery from scratch. This is going to be a tall order. A couple of billions will be spent, but this is something that should be done as a long-term approach. But short and medium term, let's fix refineries, support those who has refineries, who has even modern refineries. Let's get something working so that we can be able to ensure that we have product that is available. If it's available, I'm sure the tensions around the pricings will temper down. That's my take.
All right, Desmond Agwefo, thank you for your time with us this morning.
Thank you very much, and have a good day. Thank you.
We're going to break now. When we return, we have more conversations. This time, we'll be heading to Edo State and the allegations against the All Progressives Congress. Stay with us. And INEC, I beg your pardon. Stay with us. Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Edo State, has denied allegations of obstructing political parties from inspecting election materials and BVAS machines used in the recent governorship election. The resident electoral commissioner in Edo, Dr. Anubum Onoha, described accusations as baseless, misleading, and devoid of truth.
The controversy began when the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and its candidate, Dr. Aswe Godalo, claimed that INEC was disregarding a court order granting inspection of the election materials. However, Onoha clarified that INEC had actually scheduled the inspection for Wednesday at its Benin headquarters, inviting all interested parties to participate. The resident electoral commissioner urged stakeholders to disregard misinformation and encourage parties to engage with his office through proper legal channels, promising full cooperation. Now, this development comes amidst ongoing debates about electoral transparency following the Edo elections. Joining us, of course, to discuss this.
Yes, we have Mr. Osaiting, who's joining us to have the conversation, and let's see what the true position is regarding what the arguments are in Edo State. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right.
Sorry, I'm on the move. That's why you see that I'm a bit unstable with my location. I apologize for that.
Oh,
going by your question, I'll start by saying that, look, from what we saw in the election, we on that election day proper, we saw a situation where there was a obvious collusion. INEC colluded with those that rigged the Edo State governorship election on the 21st of September. And, they announced a winner, and we are going to reclaim our mandate. And part of the efforts we are making was to go to INEC on Monday this week. We went with our court order, showing them that, look, this is what we have obtained to inspect the materials. So by that Monday, they told us that they were not ready yet and that they were going to have a schedule to involve everyone. But it's important to know that it is Aswe Godalo and the People's Democratic Party that went to obtain the court order. So I wouldn't know why other parties were invited to join in the exercise. But from that Monday, we couldn't inspect. Then Tuesday, we couldn't inspect. They made a release that they were going to start yesterday. So we got there yesterday, and there were kind of, disagreement, a rowdy session, chaotic session, in the inspection room. So inspection could not take place yesterday also. And then we are hoping that today we'll continue. They will be able to allow us to carry out inspection. But yesterday, as they said, that we couldn't do inspection. And today we just hope, because of the rowdy session yesterday, I think both parties agreed that we can continue with the inspection today. And I hope they'll give us a chance to inspect the material starting from this morning.
Yeah, what exactly do you describe as a rowdy session? Can you be clear on exactly what it is? Because there's news reports that say thugs, were causing chaos at the office, the INEC office yesterday. So what do you mean by rowdy session?
What I mean to say that, you know, some, especially from the APC, they were saying that they needed time to prepare, they needed to get some of their materials ready and all of that. So that led to a kind of disagreement, a kind of rowdy session and all of that. So you heard from the interview granted by the APC state chairman, Mr. Jared Tenebe, where he was saying that we couldn't carry out inspection because they didn't have their own register, as the case may be. So I think it was an argument ensued, actually. So the bottom line is that we couldn't do that yesterday.
All right. There are also reports, you know, about how, I mean, I did see how a representative of your party was saying that this was done, targeted to ensure that you do not meet the deadline of Saturday, the deadline to filing your appeal on Saturday. Should you not, you know, should the situation arise where you're not really able to gain access between now and Saturday, what will be the next steps?
You know, that's actually where the problem is, because one would ordinarily expect that INEC understands what time says regarding this very important matter. One would expect INEC to be most proactive, to be very proactive. But what we can see is the reverse, you know. So they are not proactive, they are not getting very serious, which is a testament of what they actually did on the 21st of September, where they flagrantly breached their own rules and regulations by taking collation from local government in Oredo, Obaka, and Ego to the state collation center. You know, we only have this Saturday to do our filing, to file our case. And we are having delays from Monday, and today is Thursday, and nothing has been done. It's I don't know how to interpret that other than to say that, look, INEC is not actually helping matters. Because part of which is that, look, we went to court to bring order to inspect our materials. So now, what brought other parties into this picture? If they had actually, did they go to the court to obtain an order? Were they interested in inspecting the materials and all of that? So I think from Monday, you can imagine, we went there on Monday, they were telling us that they were here to draft the schedule, of which they have been served, you know, the court order. So it's a delay tactics, which of course, you know, in a situation like this, when election is rigged by the umpire, you know, they also make attempt to cover it up for those that were affected, not to actually seek justice at the right time. I think it's a delay tactics from the INEC, if you ask me.
Yeah. I mean, you may not be part of the PDP's legal team, but do you have any idea how many days on the average that the PDP's legal team might need to inspect these materials before, of course, presenting their case? And if you get the, if INEC rather releases these files to you today or maybe tomorrow, would that be enough for the PDP?
Well, I am not a lawyer. I was with our legal counsel, and in the room yesterday, we saw what was happening. All we are saying is that, INEC, look, let us inspect this because of the importance of the timing. You know, we have up to this Saturday. Saturday is just about 2 days away. Today is Thursday, tomorrow is Friday and Saturday. So if we cannot have access to this material for inspection, you understand what that means. And if, again, they now give us a very limited time. We have over 4,000 plus polling units, you know, that we want to inspect, as the case may be. So you can imagine how far we can go in inspecting those polling units. So it's actually not going on very well. So it's time bound, and by Saturday we have to file, to make our final filings. The lawyers were there too. I saw the, I don't want to use the word grievances, but the concern was there. It was very obvious that the concern was there. If by Monday, from Monday till now, and an order they got since last week, or as the case may be, we are here to inspect, and we have just this Saturday. So you now ask, how many of those items are we going to be able to inspect based on the short time left? You know, so that's the situation.
What is the PDP hoping to prove in court?
You know, obviously, we won the election, no doubt about that. We have every reason or evidence to prove that we won the election. First, INEC flaunted their order, their rules and regulations, And there were a lot of funny things that happened during that election. And we are constantly guaranteed to actually go to court and say that, look, we are dissatisfied with the results you announced. Based on what we have, evidently we won the election. So we are challenging it in court. So the part of the process begins with inspection of the materials, which we rightfully went to the court and the court has granted. So INEC should not be a barrier. They shouldn't be an obstacle towards facilitating that process, unlike what we are saying today now. So it's very important they make it fast. They have to be neutral. They have to be honest and make it seamless for us to actually carry out the exercise smoothly, because, you know, after now, we'll go to the court properly. So we needed this inspection to file our case properly so that the defense will start in court. Let me say this, that we won the election, whether with the result on the IRF or whatever it is obvious we won the election, and some of their guidelines, they've flouted themselves. For example, I mentioned earlier that you don't do local government collation at the state collation center. It's a breach of their rules and regulations. And you know the effect that had on the election, especially Oredo local government area and Ikobaka local government areas. So if you do that, I think there's a problem with it. And that effect affected the outcome of the election according to INEC. And we also have other local governments like in Edo North, what happens and all of that. So all of these things we want to challenge, and the process has started. The institution should allow us to carry out inspection properly. And I must also say this, that this is the time the police or the security agencies should actually act so neutral. You know, they have to provide security for everyone, everybody. They must, again, not allow Edo people to see them as a very biased people. Because if they cannot give us security again this time around, it's going to be a problem. You cannot do anything. You saw what happened in the election, where we saw the Nigerian police all colluding, you know, with the INEC for those materials to be hijacked and for the election to be rigged. You know, so I think there's a problem. All hands must be on deck this time around to ensure that the process is seamless and is timely. Court process is timely. So they cannot allow us this time around to have access to inspect the material. So, and we are going to do our filing on Saturday, which is the deadline. So something is actually wrong with our picture.
When you speak about collusion, from INEC, tell us exactly what you mean. The role that you accuse INEC of playing during the elections, that of course, now allegedly has led to your party's loss in the Edo State elections.
Like I always say, personally, if election is going to be rigged in this country, INEC cannot act alone. They need a security coverage. If the security is not colluding with them or is not giving them the shield for them to rig election, they can't just rig election. You saw what just recently happened in Rivers State. And it is an indictment somehow that we could conduct election in this country without the presence of the Nigerian police force. And the election was very peaceful, and it went well. So what we saw in Edo State on September 21st, even before the election, you could see the tension, you could see the intimidating atmosphere that they were creating. The Inspector General of Police was in Benin City. You saw what happened and all of that. So in all of this, they've even made the atmosphere to be very tense, and that led into the election day proper. And then you saw what happened where INEC was, where they were moving collation from local government center to the state collation center. If the police, if the security agency were actually, if they were willing to be unbiased, as the case may be, you could see that no, they should be the one to even tell INEC, look, there is no problem here. There's no crisis warranting you to do this. And we have pockets of police colluding with INEC and INEC hijacking materials, especially taking materials away from the state collation center, local government collation center. And we also saw what happened in Aunchi Town Hall. That's the Esako West, the local government collation center, where we had violent people coming in to violently move materials from that local government collation center and they're taking them away just freely. Like that. So you ask, where is the police?
Do you have proof of all that you've just claimed?
No, you know, I think I don't want to go in details. I don't want to reveal a lot because I'm not authorized to do that. And secondly, I am not a lawyer. So what we are trying to do is to say, look, all the necessary agencies, you should allow us to prove this. You can even see the protest. You know, since they announced that result, there have been protests in Benin City or in Edo State. Every part up to yesterday that people went to protest at INEC office in Abuja. You know, when you see a Benin woman or Benin women dressing in black attire to agitate for something like this, it tells you the extent of the barbarity committed against them. So I don't want to go in detail because I'm not authorized.
I'm not asking for details. It's a yes or a no question. Okay. And eventually, if you do get access to view this, to do this inspection and view the materials you want to inspect, you eventually go to court and then you can share your evidence. All I'm asking is, there have been strong claims that have been made. Do you have evidence to support this?
Of course, there are evidence. Right. Okay. Of course, there are a lot of evidence.
All right.
Like I just told you, if INEC breaches its constitution, for example, moving collation from local government to state, is that not an evidence? We even had incidences of the IREV, what is in the IREV result announced at the polling units, not in congruence with what they are just announcing. So it's a problem. So we have to actually challenge that. A lot of evidence, there's a lot of evidence, and when we get to the court, we'll be revealing them as the case proceeds.
All right, and also to just ask, you talked about talks, you talked about protests happening. Give us a further insight into the conversation. There also were reports of thugs storming the Commission's office in Benin to allegedly obstruct the inspection of electoral materials. But away from that, talk about the Edo people. Would you say that with all that has happened, the Edo people have moved on and just taking life, taking what their current reality is to be a Sera, whatever will be situation? Or are Edo people firmly in support of your candidate and your party and rooting for you to not just get access to these materials or to the INEC materials, but also to go to court and maybe win the case in court?
All right, the Edo people, and especially the Benins, we are very, very unique in what we do. Now, for the past 2 weeks now, there have been series of protests in Benin City. You are aware of this. 2 days ago, I think that was Tuesday. 2 days ago should be Tuesday. You had a lot of Benin women dressing in black attire. As a Benin man, that exercise, that action alone has both cultural and traditional implication. It's significance, not implication anyway. It has significances that borders on our culture. Women appealing to the conscience, going to the street to protest, to say that, look, the election was rigged. It was rigged. And you also see various groups protesting that, look, election was rigged. Now, is it not funny that those that said they won an election, they're also the one protesting at INEC office? You saw according to what INEC announced, the deputy governor-elect, the person of Dennis Idaosa, with some other people, those faces you saw on that day at INEC office, I think that should be Monday. It was not on Monday. So you saw them there on Tuesday in the morning. You saw them. What were they doing? These are some of the things we are saying. Edo State, as we speak today, Benin City, is like where people are mourning. No, you can also find out, not because I'm a PDP person.
We need to go.
So you can find out. The atmosphere is like a mourning place now. And that is why you are seeing protests every day. We don't know what is going to happen today. But up to yesterday, you saw people protesting at INEC headquarters, even in Abuja. So that's the situation. Edo are saying that return this mandate because we gave this mandate to Aswe Godalo of the People's Democratic Party. So the last time we experienced this was in 2007 when Adams Ali Oshomole won the election and people were not satisfied. So we are having a repeat of it today. And we are very confident that the mandate stolen will be returned.
All right.
Although people want it returned.
All right, we'll see how things turn out. I was going to mention that, he's presented his certificate of return to the Oba of Benin, and of course, that might seem like it's been accepted by the Edo people. But, the next couple of days we'll see and follow also on whether your journey to INEC office today will be successful for the PDP. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We hope to hear from you again, maybe early next week as things unfold. Thanks for your time.
Thanks so much. It's a pleasure.
Okay, we've had a pretty interesting start to the program this morning. We, of course, have spoken about the NNPC and its new pricing scale for petrol here in Nigeria and also in Edo State. Let's share with you a quick recap for those of you just joining us and also let you know what's coming up in the second half of Breakfast Central.
NNPCL raises fuel price to 1,030 naira per litre in Lagos, Abuja. And we also talked about INEC denying blocking beavers inspection of materials in Edo. We've just concluded the conversation with good luck on that. And we also have Plateau Governor assures citizens of credible local government elections. Chizoba Anyanwe brought us a report on that. Now let's share with you what we're discussing next on the show.
Supreme Court to hear 16 states suit against the EFCC on the 22nd of October. The newspaper front page is also coming in your way this morning. And what Nigerians are saying. Welcome once again. Let's take you through the newspapers and share with you the major stories making headlines across Nigeria this morning. We're going to be kicking off on the Punch newspapers, I believe. Yes. The Punch this morning says their NLC demands reversal as fuel queues resurface. Petrol nears 1,300 naira per litre in states as NNPC hikes pump price again. APC and opposition clash. We can also find this morning, Senate faults governor's fresh move on local government allocations. Tinubu government borrowed $6.45 billion from World Bank, says the report. North Central PDP caucus presents Damagum's replacement October 24th. Also this morning, Buhari didn't approve MFL's naira redesign. I'm not sure why they keep saying this thing. Okay. And that is from a CBN ex-deputy governor. I really don't know why, because there is numerous pictures online of the president taking pictures with the former CBN governor, with the new naira notes. So what do they mean he didn't approve it? Also this morning, a 20-year-old Ogun fund seeker drowns in hotel pool. That's a sad story. Edo State PDP and APC clash stalls polls materials inspection. And River CP visits raise local government secretariats as probe begins. These are the big stories on the Punch newspapers.
All right. And let's move to the next paper, the Vanguard newspaper. On the front page of the Vanguard, anger as petrol price goes up third time in 2 months. Price up by 15% to 1,030 litre in Abuja, 998 in Lagos. While seeing complete deregulation, says marketers. Latest increase regrettably ill-timed, according to CPPE. Untold hardship for workers looms, NCMDLCA. Impacts will be severe on businesses, says Aspen. And there's several other riders to that. Unilag UI lose top rankings as Covenant University emerges best Nigerian university in 2024. Did you see that ranking?
No.
I saw the best Nigerian universities, and it was very shocking. They said, find out where your university is ranked. Please don't ask me, because I will not share. But Army probes brigade commander over alleged diversion of palliatives. Federal government will flush out bandits and criminals from Northwest. says Matawale. AFCON 2025, full house in Uyo as Super Eagles get set to peck Libya. At the top of the paper, net foreign exchange inflow rises 67% to $27.6 billion. Military lacks weapons and morale to defeat terrorists, according to Ndume. Federal government gazettes executive order on zero VAT excise duties for manufacturing firms. Gunmen attack army camp and kill soldiers in Imo. That's all on the Vanguard.
Okay. The next newspapers this morning is the Daily Times. It says they comply with Supreme Court verdict. Senate tells governors. Warns governors not to tamper with allocations to 774 councils. National Assembly will alter any aspect of our constitution to ensure full autonomy for local government administration, says the Senate President Godswill Akpabio. Nationwide chaos erupts as fuel price surge cripples transport, triggers soaring fares. I don't know much about chaos across the country. I think I see more people falling in line and getting, in petrol queues here and there and grumbling a little bit, because that's the most that Nigerians will do. NLC condemns fuel price hike, calls for immediate reversal. A lot of people also don't have any faith in the NLC or in Joe Ajaero or Felix Osifo or any of the people who are currently speaking or representing the NLC. Nigerians generally don't have any faith in them. To speak for them and, of course, to place their demands in front. Also on the Daily Time this morning, again, Matawale visits Sokoto, seeks means to curb banditry and kidnapping. IGP urges collective efforts to address cybersecurity threats, and also federal government targets 60% in value addition of Nigeria's raw materials. I think these are the big stories that we can find this morning on the Daily Times newspapers.
And now let's take the Leadership newspaper. On the front page of the Leadership newspaper, we can see the big story there. Concerns over Nigeria's rising mental health cases. Labour laments. I believe that was that the paper that inspired our conversation this morning, the opening banter, about the concerns over Nigeria's rising mental health cases.
I mean, that's a story, but it was on The Guardian instead.
Oh, okay, great. Labour laments new petrol pump price as queues resurface. Unions demand clarity on end game. Life of petrol now between, litre of petrol, I beg your pardon, now between 1,040 and 1,200. Federal government unveils convert now, pay later portal for CNG. At the top of the paper, federal government to strengthen tertiary education, end strikes. Local government polls, no plan to amend Kaduna law, says Assembly. We also have world rankings. Only Covenant Varsity makes top 1,000. Middle Belt elders endorse restructuring. Only 134 local government areas in Nigeria are open defecation free, according to UNICEF, and cholera kills 13 in Niger. And that's all on the Leadership newspaper. And that's all the papers that we can take. But we'll be looking at some of the stories and sharing our thoughts. If there are stories that you like to make comments about, stories that catch your eye, the numbers to call are on your screen. We want to hear from you. Join us and be our guest analyst this morning on Breakfast Central. All right, so let's start with the Daily Trust newspaper. The big story on the Daily Trust is NLC demands petrol hike. Okay, Daily Times, I beg your pardon. The Daily Times newspaper says, comply with Supreme Court verdict, Senate tells governor. All right, this is the one I want. Nationwide chaos erupts as fuel price surge cripples transport and triggers soaring fares. I think that we haven't even seen the end. I think that's what's scary, that we haven't seen the end of the petrol scarcity and what the implication might mean for Nigerians. Right now, between yesterday and today, and I'm going to take a number of these tweets when we look at what Nigerians are saying. NNPC adjusted their pricing yesterday. Some people were there when NNPC was adjusting the pricing to 998 naira. And immediately, the bus fares hiked. As soon as they got wind of the information that NNPC has increased their pricing, bus fares hiked. And people, there were reports of people getting out of the buses, because typically, let's imagine that they would spend 500 naira for this duration. All of a sudden, whilst they're there, the drivers have added 300 naira more and say, it's now 800 naira. People who had already pre-planned their day, come with the required amount, had to get down from the buses. That's just a fraction of the reality of what it is. I don't think that we've even seen the depths of the impact of fuel scarcity and the hike in fuel prices. This is the third time that I've seen a hike in fuel price this year. In the past few months, it's twice. So, I mean, the worry is what this will mean in the coming days in terms of there's going to be increased frustration. We already saw the traffic on the way to work this morning was crazy because there are fuel queues that last really long because a number of the filling stations have started to hoard products. Yeah. Whenever there's an increase like this or there's an announcement of some sort, people start to hoard products and then everybody starts to panic buy. And I can't even blame people that are panic buying. It's easy for them to come out and say, oh, people shouldn't panic buy. But the precedent that the fuel scarcity has set is such that it can last for 1 week, 2 weeks, and even 1 month. This year, I don't think that we've seen, I mean, not that I remember, that we've seen as much fuel scarcity in a year as we have seen in 2024. Right. 2024 has tried us. Yes, it was. We were seeing fuel scarcities that will last 2 months, 3 months. There'll be a little break, and then another fuel scarcity, such that we now have trauma driving those who are still driving. Because someone has said to me yesterday that, oh, I don't leave motor for now. I don't drive anymore. Thankfully, my office has provided shuttle, so I follow the office shuttle. Because people can't afford to drive their cars anymore.
Yeah, but you're going to go to church, you're going to go to the market.
But those who are still driving don't even have the mind to allow their fuel gauge to go beyond 1/3. Because when you think of how much it will cost you, you don't want to put yourself through that depressive episode of allowing it go low.
Olive, that is a luxury.
I know, that's what I'm saying, for those who are driving.
It's a luxury for you to be able to say that you will keep your fuel gauge at 75%.
And I agree. I agree. I'm not denying that at all.
It's a luxury.
It is a
lot
luxury.
of people would go to E before they ever put money together.
I was in E yesterday. That's why I was very frustrated.
Listen, we've gone between 2014 and 2024, 10 years, 87 naira per litre to 1,000 naira per litre. This doesn't happen in any sane society, in any country in the world. It's not a realistic economic experience for any country in the world. Maybe I'm not, that vast in history or economics to be able to point out any country that had such a dip in economic realities that in 10 years you move from 87 naira per litre. Yes, you can argue that you were paying subsidy back then, but it still is not a realistic expectation or reality for anybody to be able to deal with. And the thing I'm pointing out is how lives have changed in 10 years. If we're being honest with ourselves, that in 10 years, the Nigerian life has changed.
And the quality of life,
a lot of it has been disrupted.
Yeah, and the quality of life has now even reduced. It's not a situation of, oh, fuel has gone from 87,000 naira to 1,000, and people's earning capacity has drastically, improved.
No, it hasn't.
It hasn't.
And that's what I'm speaking to. And so, one thing, that, I spoke about earlier with Mr. Agboifo, I beg your pardon, was the part where all of this is still very, very dependent on the price of the exchange rate. But the problem with Nigeria is if the value of the naira appreciates, and the naira maybe is now exchanging for 600 naira to the dollar, maybe 400 naira to the dollar, you still don't expect that petrol price will reduce since it is now costing less to produce petrol. Let's quickly speak with Baba Rere, who is joining us from Ogun State. Good morning, and thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you. Emodi and Oscar, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
Baba calling from Abuja in Ogun State. You see, the youth of this country, what are they trying to do? Doing nothing. With all this hike in petrol prices, nobody seems to be doing anything. At least me, I believe the youth not go and destroy or burn anywhere, but if they occupy the spaces and tell this Tinubu that all his policies are going down the rabbit hole. It's untie the people. How can you continue to increase fuel prices and you do not care? Even your 70,000 minimum wage that you said, I don't know whether ministries or companies have been paying it, and you keep raising the price of petrol. So So I think if Labour cannot do anything, at least the youth of this country can, carry on with their destiny and ask this man some questions.
Well,
this is my take this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Babari, for calling. Well, that's subject to, different interpretations. The youths of the country have tried. They've tried to express their displeasure more than once, a number of times, but they've been silenced in many cases. We haven't yet gotten over the trauma that was NSAS, the End Bad Governance protest. We saw how that turned out. They're planning youth confab, which a number of us think is just a waste of time, resources, money, and nothing that would lead to anything positive. But what really are the options? I think that's the question that we should ask. What really are the options? But you want to say
again, it's quite a sad situation, and the whole idea of Dangote Refinery and the whole idea of fixing Nigeria's refineries, all those things no longer are palatable to the Nigerian mind, because what we've seen is that all those stories have failed. None of them have brought any succor to the Nigerian people. Instead, we've continued to see the situation get worse under the current administration.
Let's hear from Elder David. Good morning, Elder David. Thank you for calling.
Thank you, Ma. What is happening? It is very surprising. It is very surprising. This is wonderful. For the past 40 years, the refinery is working in Nigeria. There is more than the 3 refinery in Nigeria. And why are we paying more? It is very, very surprising. I am in support of Nigerian Labour Congress. The drivers themselves have nothing to lose because when they buy petrol for 10,000, they sell it for 25,000 and make their own money. I sympathize with them because they are talking for the masses. I retired 1998 as a pensioner. What we know, our children feeding us today, they are even hungry. They are having more problems. What is happening? Who are those people doing this? Are they Nigerians? The people in NNPC, they are the children of the allies. The poor man children are not there. They are the ones doing all those things. This government has come to solve a problem. I'm appealing to this government. The president should take action. All those people in NNPC should be removed. They are working against this government, and this is a fact. If the Nigerian Labour Congress said they protect, yeah, they are correct.
Well,
it's to protect we.
Elder David.
Instead of the prices going down.
Elder David, just to ask, you know that the president is the...
Protect us.
Elder David, can you hear me?
Those doing it, we never see success.
Elder David, can you hear me?
Because we are hungry, we are suffering.
All right.
All right. I don't think Elder David... Elder David, are you still here?
Oh, he's gone. All right. Anyway.
I was hoping, I could have asked him because, I know Elder David as someone who's been very passionate about the government and hope and encouraging us to see that things will turn out for the best. And, I wonder if he still feels the same way about the administration or if he feels differently, especially because he's talking about the NNPC and saying, using very strong words against the NNPC. But we forget that the president is the Minister of Petroleum. So I wonder how, what his thought process regarding that is.
Well, again, it's a painful situation for Nigerians.
For everybody.
And nobody is being unrealistic, and expecting that the petrol price will be 100 naira again. No one's been unrealistic. If we've completely stopped paying subsidy, there's expectation that it would get higher. The price of petrol will get higher. Everyone expects that. But there's just complete lack of clarity with exactly the different stages that we've gone through to get to where we are today. There's people even who would argue that there's nothing wrong with paying subsidy.
Exactly.
The only problem is that
that's what they had been saying.
It was grossly mismanaged, and that's why we've gotten to where we are today. We have to remove it because the government failed itself in its subsidy payment or subsidy agreement. Many countries in the world pay subsidy for something, for electricity, for food, for energy. There's nothing absolutely wrong with it. It is just that in Nigeria's situation, it was grossly mismanaged. It became a full corruption ring, and that's why we got to where we are today. Let's talk about something else. We will probably move to other stories this morning. Once again, the story about the Buhari didn't approve, this is on the Punch. Buhari didn't approve Emefiele's naira redesign, says CBN ex-deputy governor. How do they say these things with a straight face? I don't understand it, because the president, again, stood right next to Godwin Emefiele, the former CBN governor, to show off the new naira notes. So what exactly do they mean by the president didn't approve the redesign? What did Mr. President do in that picture? What did he think? I'm trying to understand it. If the president stood and showed off the new naira notes alongside the former CBN governor, the same naira notes that the CBN, ex-CBN deputy governor is talking now that the president didn't approve, what does that mean? What was Mr. President showing us?
Besides, yes, we understand that the CBN is an independent entity, but at no point do I remember former President Buhari speaking against the redesign of the
And that's
naira.
exactly what I'm saying. So
you can't come now and say that President Buhari did not approve it, because even at the time, a number of people then, the conversations were that, you know, they understood what was going on and what was done was necessary to be, you know, it was a necessary course of action. Let's hear from Peter. Peter is calling this morning. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And how are you?
Very well, thank you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, about the fuel problem we are talking about in the actual sense. You see, from the beginning, I knew quite all right that anything Dangote whose hand is going to be a problem.
Why do you say that?
It's a record. When Dangote took over sugar, then we can buy 4 cubes of sugar for 15 naira. How much is sugar today when Dangote took over? Then you talk of cement. When Dangote took over cement, how much are we buying cement then? And how much is cement today? They so did it that they will block importation for them not to have a competition with other companies.
But you do know even the cements that you've mentioned, Dangote was not a sole player. In fact, there are other companies.
I'm just giving you an instance. I'm coming to the fuel. So when people were jubilating of Dangote Refinery, all these things were owned by our former rulers. All these things were owned. Dangote is just a figurehead there. You ask me, in other civilized world, whatever they are producing, their own, even cars, they buy it so cheap. In Nigeria, they so tie us to that whether we like it. The painful thing is that even Tinubu himself does not pay for fuel. Even toll gate they want to put, he does not pay for toll gate. His children does not pay for toll gate. So what we are saying, if they think that they are dealing with Nigerians, they forget to know that God. And my happiness is that one day everybody must die. They will go to that street. They won't carry those things. And the punishment they are going to receive will be upon them. They can't go scot-free. So Nigeria to rise up, come out on the street. When what do you call them? The former ministry, State Babangida, when he refuses to go out, it was 10 people must troop out. He was also removed. Tinubu cannot tie everybody in Nigeria.
All right, we have to go now. Thank you so much for calling, Peter. This argument about monopoly and Dangote's impact, I mean, it's another conversation. He has, of course, many times decried that argument about people labeling him someone who comes into an industry to intentionally monopolize and change how business is being done, because
everyone is entitled to their opinion exactly, on these things.
But we will continue these conversations at a future date.
All right, we need to go. Thanks very much for your contributions to our newspaper review this morning. We'll take a very short break. When we come back, we, of course, get into more of conversations we're having this morning on Breakfast Central.
Today, Nigerians are saying a lot about the fuel scarcity. Nigerians are ranting. And I think I'm the chief ranter today because I had an experience yesterday. I remember trying to go fill up my tank and the queue was inexplicable. I hadn't realized before then that there was fuel scarcity, and so it was a rather rude shock to see that the NNPC had adjusted its litre, its sales price to 998 naira. And as a result, we started to see that a number of filling stations then started to hoard, and the other filling stations, of course, started to either increase their price or sell exorbitantly. What we did see was then there was a resultant queue that would last from the filling station to the road. And after like 40 minutes of waiting and begging because my tank was already on empty, I finally got fuel to buy. I had to tweet about my experience because I don't know what was more disheartening. I said, so apparently there's another fuel scarcity. Nigerians haven't got a break in the past 2 years, back-to-back basbos. I don't know what's more depressing, the fuel queues, the amount we're paying, or the banter of frustrated people at the filling station. And, you know, the reality that I saw at this filling station was that there were people who came to the filling station and could not afford to buy enough to fill their jerry cans or their cars. Not because their cars were already maybe partially full before, but because they did not have the money. People were paying 10,000 naira, 14,000. How many liters can 10,000 naira buy you if you're buying fuel at the rate of 1,060 naira? How many liters? And that was the reality of a number of people just buying enough, just enough to get them to the next destination. A man who was at the filling station said, oh, just give me 14,000 naira. At least this one can take me home and maybe take me to work tomorrow. And that is how Nigerians are literally living, from hand to mouth. It's not the prettiest picture. And the fears are what the next few months will look like, what the projections are. Right there at the filling station, whilst all Nigerians collectively gathered to wail and complain about the current administration and how expensive things have become, there were projections, of course. The projections were that everybody should fasten their seatbelt because maybe before the end of the year we'll purchase 2,000 naira. And it's quick before now to say things like, God forbid, when you hear projections like that. But what we've learned, if in no other year we believe this, in 2024, the major lesson we've learned is never to say never, because anything really is possible. And, we are all collectively united in our suffering. There's no tribe that is enjoying more than the other, no religious affiliation, no political party. At the end of the day, everybody is feeling it, and everybody is talking about it on X. Let's see what Nigerians are saying. Our first tweet this morning is from Maurice Moye, who says, NNPC just put it below 1,000 naira so that it will still be 3 digits fuel price. What's the difference between 198 and 1,000 naira? Well, Maurice, 2 naira, maybe 2 naira is something. I'm at Obalendi, and the only thing I can hear from bus drivers is that NNPC has increased fuel price, and they're currently pegging fare to Lekki at 800 naira right now, and once it's tomorrow, they're moving it to 1,000. I'm not crying, but many people came down from this bus. This is the reality. This is the practicality of what Nigerians are experiencing. This is the third time NNPC is increasing fuel price within 12 months. The hardship continues, Daniel Rega says. And the next tweet is from Chuman Noli, who says, at this rate of fuel pump price increased by NNPC, it's getting to a stage where Nigerians will spend their entire salary to buy only fuel. Filling my car tank was already up to around 65,000 naira, and there's another increase. The suffering in Nigeria has never been this bad. Well, yesterday I spent 74,000 naira. If NNPC likes, they should increase the fuel pump price to 2,000 naira until we are ready as citizens to ditch tribalism and stupid discussions to take back our country from these wicked politicians. They'll keep churning out harsh policies, Remy says. Our next tweet is from Savage Gentleman, who says, NNPC has increased the price of petrol to 998 naira, and yet the timeline isn't outreached. But you fight for 3 days over irrelevant things like soups. And this boils down to the conversation we had earlier, where people are sending death threats to others who have chosen to decide what side of the divide they are on regarding soup. That's another conversation. Diwura says, with the prompt price of petrol increasing, the naira's value is plummeting. This outcome is inevitable when a square hole is forced to accommodate a round peg. Do I count myself lucky for buying fuel at 925 naira per litre this morning before the increase? Yes, my brother, you are lucky, because that's what it is now. And our final tweet is from Favor Room, who says, this price will favor me and my family. I think that with all these few points of ours, we have been able to convince and not confuse you that we are collectively united in our suffering. That's the one thing we cannot deny, that this thing is affecting everybody. Well, maybe the politicians are not feeling it as much, but the majority of us, the masses in Nigeria, are feeling the impact and the heat. And if we would take a minute to set aside our tribal differences, our religious differences, and, you know, the politics that we so have fervently allowed to divide us, and collectively come together as a country, maybe then we can hold our leaders to account and find a way out. But until then, I think the page that we are on is to keep picking at things that aren't necessary. Nigerians are suffering. Everybody is suffering. I hope that in the nearest future we'll find some measure of relief. But that's all the Nigerians are saying. We'll go on a break now. When we come back, we have more stories to look at this morning on Breakfast Central. Stay with us.
16 Nigerian states, led by the Kogi State government, have taken the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, to the Supreme Court, challenging the constitutionality of the laws that establish the agency. The states are contesting the EFCC's authority to investigate financial dealings within their territories. They argue that the EFCC's Establishment Act goes against the Constitution, claiming that when the EFCC Act was enacted in 2004, the provisions of Section 12 of the 1999 Constitution were not followed. The Supreme Court has scheduled a hearing for October 22, 2024, with a 7-man panel of justices led by Justice Uwani Abaji set to preside over the case. Now, this comes amid issues like lack of public trust in the EFCC, with recent allegations of bribery within the jurisdiction. This morning, we're joined by the head of media and publicity at the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Dele Oyewale. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on the program.
All right, you've heard the argument. You know, the states are planning to take the EFCC to court. Before we get into, you know, what the current challenges the EFCC has had to face in the past few weeks, or do I say months, let's talk about what the implication of this might mean. You know, going to court, and what's a ruling in favor of the states should that happen. You know, what that would mean for the EFCC.
Well, ordinarily, I wouldn't want to talk about that. You know, when the matter is before the court, elementarily in law, we know that that is sub judice. We should not talk about it. But be that as it may, the overriding need for us to strengthen our nation against every form of economic and financial crime cannot be overemphasized. If we leave the pyrotechnics of the law, the technicality of the law, whatever argument anybody may want to canvass, the truth of the matter is corruption is real in Nigeria, and it has to be tackled. So let's allow the courts to decide. But you and I know that we need to move a step further. We need to do something. The narrative has to change. The paradigm has to shift. We must not continue the way we are. And that is what the commission is doing. So whatever might be the argument of anyone or group of individuals concerning that, well, let the court decide. But it is obvious that as a nation, we need to fight corruption. It is a matter that cannot be debated. You know, it is a matter that is beyond any controversy. So if 20 people, 30 people, 40 people, 50 people, 1 million people go to court and say that, no, the EFCC should not be allowed to function, we all know that that will not be in the overall interest of the nation. So let's allow the court to decide.
Well, I mean, the dissolving, if that happens, of the EFCC doesn't stop, you know, the fight against corruption. The government still has, you know, other security agencies and other bodies, you know, that could also take up the fight against corruption. Or maybe we'll set up a new agency. So it's not like, you know, Nigeria's fight against corruption is solely dependent on the existence of the EFCC in the first place. The case is being led by the Kogi State government. So do you think it is because of the recent, you know, case concerning former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello? Is that where you think that this is coming from?
Well, there is no need for us to make any conjecture or any speculation or any hypothetical consideration concerning where it is coming from. From whichever angle it may be coming from, the truth of the matter is that corruption is an issue in Nigeria, and it has to be tackled. And let me tell you, going by the track record of the EFCC, the pungency of our action, the credibility of our operations, the international acceptability of what we are doing, I think the Commission is in a better state to continue with what it is doing. So it doesn't matter what argument anybody is raising. So a few weeks back, I think just last month, I had cause to be in UK for an engagement. And when the immigration people at the airport, I think it was Gatwick Airport in London, when they were raising issues about my immigration issue, the moment I told them that I came from the EFCC, the narrative changed. Oh, you are from the EFCC. Oh, EFCC in Nigeria. Oh, you people are doing fantastically. You are working. That is from another land.
Okay,
Yeah,
but that's from another...
That...
Okay, let's bring it back to Nigeria. I mean, you're getting raving reviews from the United Kingdom, but in Nigeria, it's a different kettle of fish. The reactions that we've seen from Nigerians and the statements that have been made about the EFCC has been one that is lacking of trust. Case in point is the Yahaya Bello case. Why did the EFCC not arrest Yahaya Bello when he submitted himself, to the EFCC headquarters?
Very good. You know, ordinarily, when you look at a situation, if I were in your situation, I will also ask the same question now. You declare somebody wanted, he came to your premises, and you did not arrest him. Normally, ordinarily, anybody will, and it will raise some few concerns. But the truth of the matter is that at our own end, we have facts. We work on, the EFCC is intelligence-driven. We have at our fingertips facts why we should not take him into custody when he came. We may not rush to the public, maybe because of the need for us to score some public relations, a point or whatever, to say this is the intelligence we have. We are not going to talk about it. But the truth of the matter is that ordinarily everybody will behave the way the public expected. But there are issues that actually made it impossible for us to take him into custody. He knew and we knew. And so at the appropriate time...
what issues? What we're asking is, what the question really is about clarity on the issues that made you not arrest him. I mean, it's pretty obvious that there are issues.
I may not be able, for now, I may not be able to come to the public with some of these facts. There are issues that border on intelligence. There are issues that border on the continuity of what we are doing. So that's what.
So what is then the use of him being declared wanted? Why then is he being declared wanted? If
logic.
Yeah. What then is the use of him being declared wanted if he can walk into your office and walk out? And then you say that there are reasons you can't arrest him. Why is he then wanted? And then of course, if you remember later that day, there were reports that the EFCC went, to once again exchange gunfire. I believe, I don't know what happened at the Kogi State Government House. So what then is the use of all of that? If you say that there are reasons you can't arrest him.
Yeah, you see, now when he came to our premises, I just told you that ordinarily, using ordinary logic, you expect that somebody that has been declared wanted, it was your premises, you take him into custody. But we have reasons that are beyond what the public may have known, and I'm not going to talk about it. At the Kogi State incident, what happened at the Governor's Lodge, I was there. There's a lot of misinformation, a lot of misrepresentation about what happened. I was there.
Which is why we are...
nothing they open.
So what happened? What happened there?
Now, what happened there? When he came, it is true that we asked him to go back. And at the appropriate time, we will come for him. There was an agreement that he will come back. So, and we went, as a responsible law enforcement agency, to meet with him, to have discussions with him, and to bring him, in the way we wanted. And of course, the security details opened fire, raising issues. And because we didn't want anything that may cause a kind of breakdown of law and order, we had to ask our men, to retreat and to come back. It's not the EFCC that opened fire.
So I'm sorry. I'm mostly just responding to what you said initially. that there are reasons you didn't arrest him when he came, or you asked him to go back. It just doesn't make sense that you ask him to go back, and then later that day you then go, and then his men open fire at you.
All right. Unfortunately, you said to us
Don't forget that I earlier told you that at the appropriate time we are going to bring to the public domain why he was not arrested on our premises.
Mr. Ayewale, we hope that that can happen very soon, because Nigerians want some clarity. We unfortunately are running out of time, but let's quickly ask you, Bobrisky, there have been allegations that Bobrisky allegedly...
I remember that we issued a press statement.
We saw
issued a press statement very recently.
We saw that.
Yeah, you saw it, fine. Now, the Yaya Bello issue is not what is going to determine the effectiveness or lack of it for the EFCC. We have our track record.
Well, Mr.
Ayewale, Yaya Bello's issue is not enough.
I beg to differ.
It's an isolated issue.
Mr. Ayewale, I beg to differ because there is a perspective in Nigeria that justice is very selective, especially when it comes to people of influence, people who have power, money, and authority. And with this, if it's not handled the right way, to further the stereotype amongst Nigerians. I don't want us to go back and forth on this. I'm hoping that we can have you again, but as quickly as you can. There have been allegations that Bobrisky allegedly paid some money to the EFCC for them to drop the charges against him, to reduce certain charges, the money laundering charges. Can you please shed some light on that as quickly as possible?
Okay, yeah, I will quickly tell, I'll be very quick about it. There is nothing like selective judgment, selective justice, or whatever that you have just spoken about. We have, for God's sake, about 3 former governors have been arraigned, 4 former ministers have been arraigned. So if we have some technical intelligence issue with Yaya Bello, should that be an issue? You can see it's in the public domain. Concerning the issue of Bobrisky, we were at the House of Representatives, and our lawyers came. Initially, money laundering charges truly were included in the 6-count charge that were preferred against him. But when the Special Control Unit Against Money Laundering said that his company, Bob Express, what actually accounted for the money laundering charges was the issue of his company, that he was not declaring returns to the Special Control Unit Against Money Laundering. But the Special Control Unit Against Money Laundering came forward and said, no, this Bob Express something is not among the designated non-financial institutions and businesses, and that it needed not to render any return to it. So we dropped the charges. We dropped the charges even in the court, because we knew that we will not be able to press all those charges. So where is the need for what is all the insinuation about a bribery and whatever is frivolous.
All right, Mr. Oyewale, I think that I think that what we need is another conversation for the EFCC to help shed some more clarity on some of these conversations, so that Nigerians can get a clearer picture. So please, can you give us your word? Can you give us your word, because we have to end the show now? Can you give us your word that we'll reach out to you maybe in the coming week for another...
Definitely. Anytime you want me now.
Okay, great. That works for us. Thank you very much, Dele Oyewale. We look forward to having more conversations with you. But for now, we have to wrap up the show. Thank you so much to our audience, to our viewers, to those who have called in on the show. We look forward to, having more conversations. We'll be back again same time tomorrow. I am Olive Emodi.
And I am Osaogi Ogbawa. See you tomorrow.